The bowl season is over, and so too should be your nap. While there weren't that many great games this bowl season, there were a ton of great performances. Here were the best of the best from the 2016-17 postseason. Quarterback, Deshaun Watson, Clemson. With apologies to Baker Mayfield, who else could be on this team? Watson's performance in the Fiesta Bowl wasn't all that stellar, but what he did in the national championship was the stuff of legend. Running back. Yes, he played Pitt's porous defense in the Pinstripe Bowl, but 224 yards on 32 carries and 3 touchdowns gets you on the list. William Hauser. Running back, Dalvin Cook. Cook ran for 1,765 yards this season, so his 20-carry, 145-yard, 1-touchdown game was par for the course. Logan Bowles. Running back, Bo Scarborough, Alabama. He would have made this list even if he hadn't played in the title game. He was that good in the Peach Bowl, going for 180 on 19 carries and scoring 2 touchdowns. But he added 2 more scores in the title game before leaving the contest with an injury, a turning point in the contest. John David Mercer. Wide receiver, Chris Godwin, Penn State. Arguably the best player on the Rose Bowl field in what was the best bowl game before the title showdown, Godwin caught 9 passes for 187 yards and scored 2 touchdowns in Penn State's loss to USC. Gary A. Vasquez. Wide receiver, Trent Taylor, Louisiana Tech. Who cares if it's the Armed Forces Bowl? La Tech was able to beat a top 25 team thanks to a 12-catch, 233-yard, 2-touchdown performance from Taylor. And his teammate Carlos Henderson went for 10 and 129 and also scored twice. Tim Heitman, USA Today Sports. Wide receiver, Olabizi Johnson, Colorado State. 7 catches, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a loss. Tight end, Troy Fumagalli, Wisconsin. The Badger almost single-handedly, in one case, literally, beat Western Michigan in the Cotton Bowl, pulling in 6 catches for 83 yards. Prompting PJ Fleck to proclaim, "He's unbelievable." Fumagalli also gets bonus points for not having a left index finger. Tim Heitman, USA Today Sports. Offensive line, Clemson. Yes, the Tigers' offensive line allowed 4 sacks and 6 tackles for loss in the win over Alabama in the title game, but that was Alabama's front 7. They're graded on the curve and they did a much better job against the Tide than Washington did. Parlay that performance with the Tigers' stellar 205 yards rushing performance against Ohio State, another one of college football's best front 7s, and you have an offensive line deserving of recognition. Kim Clement. Defensive lineman, Stevie Tuialovatu, USC. Tuialovatu had a team-high 8 tackles in USC's win over Penn State, and while the box score won't bear it out, he dominated the line of scrimmage all game. Every yard Saquon Barkley earned on the ground was hard-earned. Gary A. Vasquez. Defensive lineman, Clelin Ferrell, Clemson. It's a shame that he was injured in the title game. He was in the midst of the best football of his young career. When the postseason came around, Ferrell turned it on. He had 6 tackles and a sack in Clemson's ACC championship game win, 4 tackles and a sack in the Fiesta Bowl, and a tackle for loss against Alabama. But more than the stats, Ferrell was an incredible, disruptive force in the college football playoff. We get at least 1 more year of him, too. He's a redshirt freshman. Mark J. Reblis. Defensive lineman, Solomon Thomas, Stanford. Thomas turned in my favorite performance of the college football playoff, a transcendent performance, particularly in the 4th quarter, of the Sun Bowl, which turned out to be one of the best games of the bowl season. The junior had 7 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and a sack against North Carolina, but Thomas will be in the nightmares of Mitch Trubisky for years. Defensive lineman, Dedrin Senat, South Florida. You probably missed this performance, and that's okay, but Senat had a sterling showing in the Birmingham Bowl. Pro Football Focus graded him out at 91.9, the second highest rated performance of the bowl season behind Thomas. Senat was a force South Carolina couldn't handle, pitch perfect in the run and pass rush. You could take your eyes off him in a game that was far better than advertised, and that's the best compliment possible for a defensive lineman. Daco Charlton, Michigan, DeMarcus Walker, FSU, Jonathan Allen, Alabama, Ryan Anderson, Alabama, Carlos Watkins, Clemson, I like.